Hi everyone, it's Michelle from Weddings and Paint. I'm jumping on just a little bit early to just cover some housekeeping. So I'd like to let you know a little bit about me and who I am. So I'm Michelle Johnson and I am the artist at Weddings and Paint. So I'm a live wedding painter. I'm also a crafter and I love making things, and I thought that it would be fun to offer a few lessons every now and then painting. So I actually have an art degree from Savannah College of Art and Design. Hey Chris, I seen you're watching. So that's where all my training's from pretty much, is Savannah College of Art and Design. My passion's in the arts. So this is going to be a fun little lesson, I think, for us to do together. So housekeeping stuff. I have a giveaway going on and I hope that you guys will enter to win. So I am joined with Lauren Carpenter from New Skin, and she sells products to help boost your confidence. So one of the things that she is donating for this giveaway is some whitening toothpaste and some curly mascara, and these are some things that she offers at her website, and anything she sells, her proceeds go to benefit a nonprofit. So that's an even better reason to support this giveaway, because not only are you helping me, you're helping this nonprofit get noticed. So go join my giveaway. All you have to do is post a selfie, and I will be drawing for the winner on October 31st. So good luck. Next thing, what do I have? Oh, in November, I'm going to be at a vendor show hosted by Sanderson Services. So it's called Shopping with a Heart, and it is a Christmas shopping experience. So there's going to be a lot of vendors there, arts and crafts, and different food vendors like Pampered Chef and things. So if you don't have anything going on in November, it's on the, I believe, 13th and 14th. It's $5 entry to go in and shop, and all those proceeds benefit Sanderson Services, so support them as well. So lots of great things happening, and during this video, if you share it, you will be entered to win one of my little decals that I made. So share my video. Everybody watching, it helps boost me up there and it gets me noticed, and not only that, you get to win something for all the hard work of sharing it. So I will take a list of all the shares at the end of my video, and from those names I will draw the winner, and I'll contact you and get your mailing address for this decal. Alright, so what do I hope to achieve today in this painting lesson? Hi Robert, hi Brittany, I see you guys all joining, thank you. So today I hope to teach you guys a little bit about using a palette knife to paint a Sanderson Sister painting. So this is my inspiration. Everybody's is going to look a little bit unique and different, but this is the end goal here. So all we need to do is get together a palette knife, a paintbrush, a canvas or a piece of wood if you have it, some water to clean up your utensils there, and some paint. So the type of paint that I am using is just a Liquitex, but really anything you have on hand will work. I just like this brand because it's a little bit thicker, and when I'm using a palette knife, I like that impasto kind of effect where it's got lots of texture with all the different layers, so I can achieve that with this heavy-bodied acrylic paint. But like I said, if this is what you buy at Walmart and this is what you want to use, go for it. It might work better with a paintbrush, but this painting we're doing today will work just as good with the paintbrush as it will the palette knife. Alright, and then I did grab just a tape roll, and we're going to use this as a guide for you guys to help you draw some circles for the Sanderson Sisters faces. So, I mean, you can freehand it. I just thought any way I can show it to make it easier for you, I'm going to try to do that. Alright, I'm going to try to switch up the view in just a minute here. So this is my first live class on my Facebook. I have taught classes before. Hi Ashley, thanks for joining. So I've taught classes before on vinyl and epoxy tumblers and a few other things in person. So this is the first time doing it in my studio live. So we'll see how it goes. If there's things that we need to improve, we'll work on it as we go. So I'm a one-person show, so I have to do all my camera operating. So I'm gonna tilt y'all around so y'all can see. All right, so I think y'all aren't upside down, right? Y'all are good to go? All right, if it looks good to you, give me some thumbs up or some hearts or something, because I'm gonna keep going. If it's not, then speak up now or forever hold your peace. And I brought Bob along the way to help me, but I'm gonna let Bob go over here so he doesn't scare anybody. All right, so let's get started doing the Sanderson. Thanks, Ashley, for the thumbs up. So I'm just gonna start out by grabbing my little tape roll, and we're gonna use that as our template to trace a circle here. Hi, Angie, thanks for joining. So I'm just using a little acrylic pen. You can use a pencil. I like the acrylic pen because it's pretty much what we're painting with today anyways. So I'm just going to trace my first circle. This is going to be the middle lady here. I probably should have done my research. I do not remember their names. That might be a crime because I know everybody loves the Sanderson Sisters. So forgive me for forgetting their name. So we're just going to put a circle right in the middle there. I'm just using a canvas that I gessoed. So this is a, you can tell there was a painting underneath it, but I didn't like it, so I just covered it right up. We're going to do another circle for the youngest sister there. And then we got one more right here. So this is just a general guide that I like to use for where their faces are going to be at. Now once you've traced the circles for their faces, let's go ahead and kind of do this one's hair. So I'm going to trace the inside of that circle to sort of give her this kind of volume poof on her hair, and then we can go back and do it again with this circle. So if you don't have a tape roll, you can use a glass or something, or like I said, you can freehand it. So your painting should look something like this to begin with. Oh, somebody's missing Bob. Here, I'll bring Bob back for a minute, but I know Bob might scare somebody. Miss Angie, look away. I know you don't like Bob. Bob will watch for a few minutes and then he'll go back home. Alright, so this is my under drawing, and then we're going to start by doing an under painting. So a lot of times people will just straight on put the paint on, and that's called a wet on wet technique, where you just put all your wet paint down for your background colors and then you go back with your highlights. But I'm going to go ahead and just use my brush. Alright, Bob, you're in my way. Bob's going away. We're just going to use my brush to put sort of some backgrounds and paint this in with our background colors that we'd like to use for the Sanderson Sisters. So let's add some paint to our palette. So what I'm using today, which you could use just like wax paper or a paper plate, any kind of flat surface, a palette. I like this stuff because I can just, when I'm done, I can just rip it off and throw it away. But we're going to get some black. So this is Mars Black. You can use any color black that you prefer, and I just put a nice squirt of it there. And then I generally like to make my colors go from dark to light just so I'm not accidentally contaminating anything. So I'm going to add some purple, and then I do have some magenta. And then I have some blue. This is the ultramarine blue. It's a nice bright blue. I like to use as pure as colors as I can, just so I can get those bright colors. And then when they mix together, they don't look as muddy. And then this is I'm not even going to say this word. I should know how to say it, but I'll put it up close. Green. We're just going to call this one green. So I might know art, but I don't know English, apparently. Okay, let's add some cardamom orange. And we can always go back and add more paint as we need. And then this is just a red. And then instead of mixing today, we're going to cheat and use some of this dark titanium white for their face colors. But if you have like a peach or any kind of skin tone, you can use that. But this is what I have on hand, so I'd like to go ahead and just use that. And then there's two tones in their face. So there's a darker tone and a lighter tone. So I'm using the unbleached titanium white and the dark titanium white. So one of them has a little more yellow and one has a little more gray, and those are going to be their face tones. And then I did bring in some of that apple barrel pink just for their cheeks, so I don't have to mix anything. And we want to make it easy for you guys too. Alright, so I hope you guys have your circles drawn. We're going to go ahead and get started. Do I need to turn this around for you guys so you can see it not upside down? Is that upside down for y'all? I don't know. I'm just going to do it. Liquitex is probably my favorite brand of acrylics. I think because it's affordable, I like it. I have some other ones that are Master's Touch. And I've also used the Winsor and Newton, but I don't like these metal acrylic tubes. I feel like I break them all the time. At the corners, they get pinched. And I tend to roll them so I can get the most out of my paint, and it tends to damage it over time. So I mean, that just might be my bad habit, but really I like that the Liquitex has these little plastic tubes. I just think it seals it better. And then I also have a hard time with sometimes this Winsor and Newton, the tops get stuck on and I have to use pliers, so I don't enjoy that either. So I'd say Liquitex is probably my go-to. And then I forgot white earlier, so we're going to add some white on there. Alright, so let's get started on doing our underpainting. Oh, it is upside down. Okay, y'all, I'm going to fix it. So if you turned your phone, I'm going to turn everything. We'll see. Hopefully y'all don't get seasick. There, is that better? Hopefully that's better for y'all. Like I said, I'm a one-man show, so I'm just operating from my studio, doing all my camera work at the same time. Alright, so to begin with, we're just going to use our paintbrushes. So, I think I want to have a black background for mine. So we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of water to my brush just because this is real thick paint, and for the underpainting I don't need it to be all that thick. And I'm just going to go to town painting my background. So I always work from the background to the foreground. And I also like to work from darkest to lightest. So coincidentally my background's the darkest today, so that works out perfect. So let's use our black to paint in our background, guys. And you can just kind of follow the little outline we did. And if you go in the lines, that's okay, because we're going to be using our palette knife and adding a bunch of texture on here. Anyways, those lines are just kind of a guideline, just a kind of like a paint by number. It just gives you something to reference. So this is what I call the underpainting that we're doing right now. And it just kind of gives you some guideline on what colors to add with your palette knife. Also, what's nice about the underpainting is that when you go to use your palette knife, you can scrape off some of the paint that you put on there, the heavy texture, to reveal that nice dark color underneath. So if we want to put some dark moody purples in there for our background. Can't see your canvas, Angie. Uh-oh, you can't see my canvas? Let's see. Is that any better if I move it up? Let's see. Alright. If that's better, just let me know. If not, I'll try to move things around. Oh, I can't now. Okay, good. We're good. And don't forget the sides. So it's always good to do your underpainting on your sides too, because if you want to hang this up without any frames, you want your sides to look beautiful too. So let's not forget those. I'm the worst about remembering to do this because it gets messy and I don't like getting messy, but we're going to get messy today. So I did bring some baby wipes to my studio because sometimes using a palette knife gets all over your hands. Because instead of dipping a palette knife in water, you tend to just wipe it off with a rag. And over time you run out of clean spaces on that rag and it gets all over your hands. And you end up with paint hands. So the canvas I'm using is only a 8 by 10. So it's a pretty small one. If you guys are using a bigger canvas or like a piece of wood or something, you may want to use a bigger stencil than that. I think that was a 3-inch circle that I was doing. Hi Greg, thanks for watching. Hi Dana, thanks for watching. Hi Rachel. Oh, Whitney. Hey Miss Wendy. Alright. So there is my black layer. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some dark blue for this one's hair here. And just take your brush still with this, and it's okay if it blends in with the black because we'll be going back with some texture. This is just sort of so we can get our outline going. I might use white just so y'all can see what I'm drawing here, the shape. So for her hair, she's kind of got like a cone shape going on. So I'm going to add this white in here so y'all can see. So we want to kind of do this circle like we did for the other sister's hair there in the middle, where she has kind of a semicircle. And then from that semicircle, we're just going to kind of go up like an ice cream cone. And then she has this little, I don't know what you call that, little tuft over here, I guess, that kind of goes up. Yeah, like that. So we'll pretend it's one big ice cream cone and then one little ice cream cone going this way. Or a piece of candy corn. It kind of looks like the candy corn shape too. So we're just going to do that. So I used white, but y'all should probably use blue. I just wanted y'all to be able to see what I was doing. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and clean our brush and move on to the underpainting of her shirt here. So it's a darker green. So let me clean that. I'm just going to use some water to clean my brush. Alright, so let's grab that green. We're going to put that down here. We're just going to draw a line from that circle we drew, down. So everybody's painting is going to be a little unique because everybody's got their own sort of personality when using the brush. Some people are light-handed, some people are heavy-handed. All of it's going to look amazing, so don't feel discouraged if yours looks any different than mine. Or the thing about a palette knife, it's very forgiving. You can always go back and scrape off any of the paint that you didn't like that added up in texture. So that's another thing I like about a palette knife, is it's kind of forgiving, and it gives you lots of texture and movement, which is great. So let's say this is just kind of a little triangle shape here we're making, and this is her shoulders, her little cloak thing there. Alright, and then next we'll go ahead and use some red for her hair in the middle. Hi Vicky, thanks for joining. Hi Emmett, thanks for joining. Alright, let's get that red going on. So she's got some nice fiery red hair here. We don't want to contaminate it with the black, so I'm just going to kind of leave a little bit of a gap there. When we go with our palette knife, we'll fix that. Okay, so my brush dirty and dip into the orange and just add a little bit of that in there too. I like seeing all those brush strokes, so there's not really any reason to blend your stuff in real well. More movement that way. Alright, you know what I didn't add on my thing is some yellow. I better grab some yellow for her hair. Be right back. Alright, here's our yellow. Alright, so this sister down here has a lot of hair that's just kind of in her face. And then kind of over here. Uh-oh, got a little bit of green in there. That's alright, that'll just add some extra texture. And then don't forget the sides. I had a drip of yellow that accidentally landed there, so I just went ahead and blended it in. But alright, and then let's go ahead and grab our skin tones and put those on. And that's about all I'm going to do for the underpainting. The rest we're going to use the palette knife for. Hi Terry, thanks for joining. You guys make sure you're sharing so you can be entered for that free nurse decal. I'll show it to you again, just a reminder. Anyone who shares my video today, they'll get this in the mail. At the end, I'll draw some names to see who the big winner is. Alright, so we're going to do our faces now. Let's go back to our dark titanium white and grab a scoop of that. We're going to just paint it down on her face here. And we're just going to do it halfway. So, you know, half of her face is going to be like a darker beige, and then we'll have the lighter beige, and we're going to do her neck as well. At the end, I hope to see everybody's painting posted. So y'all have to come back and post some pictures so I can see how great y'all did. And this sister's got a hand here, so I'm going to kind of just put a blob of beige over here just so we can define that a little bit more later with our palette knife. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to the unbleached titanium white that I have, and I'm going to use that on the other half of their face to try to, it kind of gives it some nice dimension, and it's nice because we don't have to go put in any features or anything. Keeps it kind of fun and loose. It's okay if it gets contaminated like I just did. It happens. Like I said, our palette knife is great about scraping off stuff we don't need. Or if you are annoyed by that, you can kind of clean your knife out, or your brush out like I just did. I just kind of wipe it off and then go back over it. So if you're working with a paint that's too thin and you want to thicken it up, you can use what's called like an art medium, and that's like a paste that kind of you blend in with your paint to help thicken it. And that's a good way to, if you have expensive paints, to make your paint last a little longer too. I think they call it artist's medium. And I used to use that, but I noticed it made my paints a little too opaque. So now I just kind of blob a bunch of paint on there. It kind of gives it a richer look. So Alright, so that's all I'm going to do for our underpainting. Now we're going to move on to our palette knife. So you may have heard a palette knife be called a knife blade. So essentially it's either a piece of plastic or a piece of metal with a wooden handle. So the difference is a palette knife, which is what this is actually used for mixing paint on your palette. So a lot of times people will mix with a brush, but the proper technique, which they have a whole class on this that I had to sit through and learn, but I'm going to give you all the short and sweet and simple version. When you want your paints to be mixed really thoroughly, you will use your palette knife. If you want to paint, you would use your palette blade, but I don't really care to distinguish between the two. I use them interchangeably. The difference is this has got a nice little arch in the neck so you don't get your fingers dirty while you're mixing. The palette blade is a lot sharper and has more flexible, but this does just as well. So I don't ever go and buy, you know, a kit of the other palette blades. So this will work just as good. You know, I've even used like a butter knife before if you're in a tight spot. So those will work too, like a little plastic butter knife. With our palette knife, we're going to go ahead and pile up some different paint colors. So I'm going to work background forward. So these sisters are in the back. So those are the ones I'm going to work with first. But I do want to address this background a little bit more than just straight black. So I think I'd like to add some nice dark purple in there, and maybe, is there a certain size we need? A certain size palette knife? Not really. The palette knives, there are two different sizes. Well, there's more than two different sizes. I have two today. This one just offers a little bit more flexibility. This one's a little sharper, so this is real good for like tree branches and things. This is nice for making real sharp lines. I guess I prefer working with the longer one actually, because I can get some real nice smooth mixtures made and I can kind of like swash it around. I don't know, they're just fun. It's one of those things that you need to work with them, the different sizes, and kind of find a preference. I'll work with my big one now that you mention it. I think I was working with the small one just because I have a smaller canvas. I'm used to real big canvases with this one. Okay, so to the background we're going to add some big purple sloshes. I'm going to add a little white in there because the purple is so dark. Can you see me adding this? Let me move this a little bit over. So I load my palette knife. You can see first I dipped it in white, and then I dipped the tip in purple. So I like to leave it kind of layered like that, so that way my colors mix on the canvas. And then I kind of just line it up here, and then you can see I just push it, and it gives you this kind of neat effect. And when the other colors mix in, if you don't like it, you can just take your rag or a baby wipe and just wipe it off. I kind of like that mixed in there because it'll actually mix in with my palette and kind of give us like this starry night kind of effect. So I'm crazy like that, I guess. So I'm just going to go add a few different strokes in here to kind of give it some texture and some movement. Kind of real sharp angles. Just my tip is not to over mix it or it starts getting muddy. So if you leave it kind of like nice free strokes like that, it kind of adds some nice movement and depth in there. Makes it more interesting. So you could, like I'm doing straight strokes, you could start doing like some spirally strokes if you want to look more like a galaxy or something. I'm just working around their head shapes and kind of letting that determine the movement on my painting. If you notice you got too much piled up somewhere, you can just take the side of your palette knife and scrape it right off, and it'll reveal that black underneath too. So just loading my palette knife each time, keeping it to where you have your purple and your white separate. So that way when you put it on there, it creates that interesting kind of technique. Now, if you liked the black background, you could have left it straight black. There's no wrong way. All right, so I kind of like that. You can see all that movement in there. It kind of makes it look hectic, like these sisters are up to no good. So it kind of makes that. I might be crazy, but I think that crazy background movement kind of adds to the personality of the girls there. All right, so now that we did our background, let's go ahead and work on this girl with the blue hair here. So let's load our brush with some blue. And I'm going to load up with some black this time because she's got some dark spots down here around her face. And we're just going to kind of load that in there. And her hair kind of comes around her face. This is where the long one's nice because you can kind of use it to push down and you can kind of shake it a little bit as you go. And it creates this nice like movement like hair would do. So that's good for that. And then we can just come in and add some shape around her hair. And it might even be nice to add a little purple in there too. I am a fan of purple. I tend to add purple into everything, especially spots where I want black at, because I feel like black kind of flattens your image. So by adding the color into it, it helps give it some depth. All right, let's go back to blue. If I'm going too fast, guys, just let me know. I am working on a little bit of a timeline. I gotta pick up my kids at 2. That time comes by so quick. I never have enough time in the day, guys. I'm sure if you guys have kids, you understand. And see, I got a little contaminated with that yellow again. But look at how it adds that little highlight in her hair, if you can see that. It still looks pretty cool. So as long as you don't sit there and over blend it in to where it starts getting muddy, then I would just leave it. So I'm gonna grab some more blue. Actually, I'm gonna mix some of this blue with some of the white to get a lighter tone of blue up here for this top tuft of hair. And then one thing is to make it look like it has some depth, it's good to always remember where your highlights and your lowlights are. So a highlight would be where this light is hitting it. So on the blue-headed girl, I cannot remember her name, guys. On her hair, she has a highlight back here on this back side. So that's where I'll probably come in with some white. Just take a big glop of white there, and let's just add some nice highlights back here. And then I might actually add a little bit of like green in there too, just to break up that blue. And then for my dark colors, I'm going to use that purple. So I'm going to go on the opposite side and add this purple in to her hair. And then I'll go back with that pure blue and just, the blue is like my mid-tone. So I want to go add that in there nice and thick to give it some texture. And if I notice I'm having a hard time seeing the outline of her hairline, that's when I can kind of wipe my palette knife off. And to clean your palette knife, you just grab it by your cloth and wipe it. You can use disposable ones. And then I'm going to go back and get black and kind of put that right along her hairline just to give it some a sharper contrast there. It's good to have a lot of free space as you're doing this because you want to kind of get the different angles as you go to put your palette knife down, and it helps to have lots of maneuvering room so you're not bopping into things. I'm a little bit constricted here because I got this wall in the way, and it kind of gets in the way when I start going to add my colors, but I'm making do. Alright, so let's grab a little bit more black for over here. I think it's looking good with her colors here. Right. in the end, we'll go back with yellow, and even though this picture doesn't show some yellow, I'd like to do some yellow highlights, just something to make it stand out. I like to do that real high contrast colors in my paintings. All right, so let's move on to this girl's hair here. The yellow hair. The yellow girl. If y'all can remember their names, y'all should comment it so I can remember. Alright, she's got some bangs that have some highlights on them. We're going to throw that white in there. Give it lots of texture. She was always my favorite, this girl. I think it's because she was blonde, and I always wanted to be blonde because I was a brunette. Alright, so this, I'm grabbing a big blob of white here, but it's got a little blue in it, and that's good actually, because I want it to break up that white a little bit. Okay, and then I might add a little orange in there too, in her hair, just to give it a little bit more depth. Well, Chris says I make it look easy, but it's only easy because I enjoy doing it. And I think once y'all are doing it, you'll realize how much fun it is. Just having some freedom. I don't know, a palette knife is just fun. I feel like you can kind of squish things around. It's like finger painting for adults without the mess. Thanks, William Wilson, for joining. Alright, let's add a few more of these little dark spots in her hair just to give it a little more depth. So when working with yellow, I try not, earlier I said I like to add purple to everything. I take it back. With yellow, I don't like to put purple near it because it kind of makes it look brown. So one of the tips I might say is don't put purple near your yellow. Or if you do, make sure your purple's dry first. Alright, so this is going to be her hair. I'm going to add a little more yellow down here. And her hair comes down in the front, so I'm going to give it like a little bit of wave. That kind of helps give you some movement when you're using your palette knife. The movements you make with your hand kind of like carves the paint out. So let me give you an example of if you didn't like the area you were working on. All you have to do, so like say maybe I didn't like where I just put this. Clean your knife off and just scrape it. You just put your angle flat down on there and run it along there. And look at how it removes that paint. It reveals my underpainting because I had yellow there, but it did remove those big chunks of paint that I may not have liked. So that's where I find that the palette knife is good and forgiving. Alright. So now let's work on this middle sister's hair. She's got a lot of color going on in it. So I'm going to use some of this magenta in her hair. Let's start that at the top here. And I just grabbed straight magenta. And I'm using the very tip of my palette knife and just kind of add in some random strokes in there. She's got lots of movement going on. And we gotta go down here around her face too. And then we'll go back with our red. Just grab a glob of that. How about a dollop? I'll say a dollop, that sounds better. And then we'll go with orange next. And then I'll take a little bit of that orange that I had and put it up here at the top for a little bit of highlight on the magenta that I did. Also, I'm going to give her a little bit of a pointier hairstyle. I think it makes her look a little more evil. Our tape roll was so rounded, it kind of made her look nicer than she needs to be. Pointy things are scary, right? All right, and then yellow. So let's grab some of this yellow for the like widow's peak of her hair. And just using the tip of your palette knife, just add that in. Miss Angie says she loves the palette knife too. Yeah. Hi, Melanie. Thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing, too. All right, and let's add a few more yellows in here. I'm going to mix a little white with my yellow so I can get a little bit creamier yellow for right here. My white's gotten a little contaminated, so I'm going to get a new white. Squirt here. New white dollop. My white is so thick. So if you run into the problem of your paint being thick, you can get a paint thinner and use your palette knife to mix it in and kind of thin it out a little bit. So there's a little bit of white here at the front of her hair. I'm going to add that in. And then we'll put a little white over here on the sides too. All the other colors are so bold, you can't really even see much of that white. Okay. Now back to a little more red, just to, you know, kind of finesse this hairstyle she got going on. And then around her face is a lot lighter, so let's put a lot of yellow right here, kind of framing her face and kind of thin her face out a little bit with it. So I'm just going to use my palette knife edge as sort of a guide here to make a straight line. On both sides. That yellow just helps brighten everything up. So before I was doing kind of small little circular motions to kind of give her the curly effect of her hair, but right here in the front on her widow's peak, she's got this kind of where it swirls back. So I'm going to put my brush at an angle, or my palette knife at an angle, and kind of do a swoop up, just to kind of get that kind of effect going on. And it'll kind of take some of the colors underneath and mix it in there to kind of give that swoop effect. All right. I see a spot here that needs a little more magenta. Alright, and I feel like we need to, where we made those circles a little bit, kind of take the lump down a little bit to make it a little flatter on top and a little less round. So let's just take a little red up there at the top and back to our magenta to get that kind of pokey, that pointy edge back. Like I said, that tape roll left it kind of rounded, which was a little too nice looking for her hair. She needs a little more angry hair. There we go. All right, I think her hair looks good. If y'all like her hair, give it a thumbs up. We can always come back and add more later if we decide we want to make changes to that. Okay, so you know what I missed with this blue lady's hair? She's got a little widow's peak there too with some purple. So I'm going to get a dollop of purple and add it right there in the front of her hair too. Right here. So her hair kind of goes up like that. There we go. Helps her to have a little more of a widow's peak look. There we go. Alright, so let's go and work on their faces now. And then we'll do the little smock coat thing last. So faces and hands. Let's go back to our titanium white and our unbleached titanium there, and we're going to add some whites in it, and maybe just a few specks of other colors for some movement. So let's grab some white. My white's got a little bit of orange in it, so that's going to be a nice way to mix in and add a little bit of movement in her face, and grab the lightest color we have here, which is the dark titanium white. So see, I've loaded my palette knife with the white, little specks of orange, and my titanium white, and I'm just going to go glob it in here and make some nice brush strokes. And I like to try to keep that nice straight edge where like her nose would be. So I'll just I put my palette knife on there and drag it in a straight line, and it makes a nice sharp straight edge. And then wherever my paint's kind of clumped up, I take that edge of my knife and I just spread it smooth. And then I can use the tip of my palette knife to sort of trace her hairline if I want to give her some more definition. So like I want her hair to have more of a, her forehead to be more of a heart shape at the top. I'll just take that tip and kind of put a little heart shape right there at the top for like a forehead. And then we're missing an ear, so let's add on another glob of that titanium white and just put on an ear here. There we go. So that's pretty good with her face there. We want to add a little pink on the tip, and that's going to be the little circle for her cheeks. So you could do a perfect circle if you want. I kind of did a little bit of a broken circle just to keep up with the texture. And then we're going to go back and do her neckline. With her neck, I want to start it white and then fade into this titanium white. So I'm going to grab a dollop of the white. Like I said, my brush has got a little bit of contaminants in it, but I think that works good for our palette knife work. So same thing, I just put my pile of paint on there, and then I'm going to line it up where I want her neckline to be, and I just pull it towards me. And look at how it left that nice texture behind. And it scraped off all the excess that I don't need. I usually reserve that because I'll use it somewhere else, so I'll just go put it back on my palette and save that for later. Anywhere I see chunks that kind of went rogue, I'll just go back and flatten those out and make a brush stroke in the opposite direction just to give it some interest. Okay, so now let's go grab our other color for her other half of her face. That's the unbleached titanium white. I'm gonna grab that, and we'll do the same thing, kind of make a little line there, and pull it away from that center line with our brush strokes, and go back with a little bit of white, and kind of trace this outline of her hairline to make that heart shape again. And let's grab a little more white and trace her jawline. There we go. And then we need to add her an ear on this side too. So her neck's a little bit wider than I have it here, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust that too by bringing just some of this color down. It's okay if it's got some of the other stuff in it, the other colors. There we go. Alright, and now let's go grab our pink. Just a little tip of our palette knife with pink, and add our other circle in. And we want to use some red for those lips, her famous lips that everybody knows her for. So to do those, it's pretty much like doing 2 circles on each side of that line that we created. So that sort of nose line, just use your tip, make 2 little dots on each side, get some more red, and then we'll make 1 bigger dot down at the bottom. And that'll give her that kind of pucker lip face thing that she's got going on. And then this is where it's nice to use this longer palette knife to get that real sharp line. We're going to load our edge with the red, and then we're just going to drag it to make the sharp line. So I don't know if you've seen how that turned out there. And if it's not enough, you can just reload it again. The only downfall is it doesn't hold a lot of paint, so you do have to reload it every now and then. There we go. So I've got her lips, I got her cheeks, we've got her face shape going on. We can take a look and see if there's anything else we want to refine. I think I will take her sideburns down. So it looks like right here I would like to add just a few sideburns that kind of go down by her ear. And that's going to help kind of thin her face down too a little bit. Excuse me. Okay, so let's go add a few undertones under her neckline. So earlier we used that unbleached titanium white. I'd like to add maybe a little purple under there, like a shadow. So I'm just going to add a little purple on my palette knife, and then come get some of that skin tone, and then I'm going to kind of drag it underneath her chin and pull it down. And that's going to create this sort of shadow here and give her neck some definition. We can do that over here too, just kind of in the back way. And then like where her coat falls on her neck, she'll have a shadow. So using that purple still and a little bit of that skin tone, we're going to trace where her coat's at, so we can see that shadow getting casted there. And we're not going to blend it in, we're going to leave it kind of chunky like that. So just so y'all know, this video will be posted for a while, so if y'all ever want to come back and reference it, you're welcome to do that. So if you weren't able to paint with us right away, then don't worry, it'll still be up for you. And on this middle sister, she's got this throat here, this line, so we're going to go ahead and add that too, I'm going to use probably blue, just so it doesn't blend right in with that purple. That kind of here, and then we'll put a little bit of that blue over here, so it's just not kind of like a random swatch of blue. And then go back and grab a little of that skin tone color. Alright, and then I'm going to grab a little edge of black. So that's where I'm going to go and just do a little more definition on her chin here. And I'm using the side of my palette knife to trace her face line. It's a real sharp line, so it's real hard to see, but it just adds just enough. Okay, so let's go and tackle some of the other sisters now, and then we'll go back with the coat. So for the blonde girl here, we got the lighter color on this side, and we're going to add some white in there. So pretty much the same routine that we did with the first sister. And then the darker color on the other side. So she's got a sharper face shape. So I probably will go ahead and kind of define that a little bit too, so she stands out, you know, recognizable, a little more recognizable. Let's see. So using my palette knife, I'm going to try to make her a little chin line there. Drag it a little bit below where we traced earlier. And I'll grab some white just to highlight it down there. There we go. And then a little white on this other side. So she's got a hand sitting on her sister. We'll do her hand after we do her coat because the hand will be on top of that coat. And then back again with the purple for the shadows around her neckline. Just add a few little bits of purple in there and pull it. Hi Emily, thanks for joining. Hi Savannah. Alright, so she's got a little bit of a line to show for her nose. So before we had to do just a straight line on this middle sister. This one's got a little bit of an angle. So we're going to take our palette knife and kind of make that angle so we can see that nose shape of hers. There, kind of like that. So it looks like a, I don't know, boomerang maybe? There we go. And I'll add just a little pink down at her chin line just to give her some more color. She was always the pretty one. Pink's a pretty color. There we go. And then in her hair, earlier we did her hair, but I could see I need to add a little more white to it. So we'll do that now that we got her face. Right along her hairline so we can have it stand out. Okay, and some of that hair goes into her face. I'm using this white real thick so it gives us a lot of texture. There we go. And I might just use a little, what color do I want to use? Maybe the black, just to kind of define the waves in her hair. Just a little bit of black in there, not much. Sometimes things start looking a little flat, so it's nice to go in and add that depth by adding a shadow here or there. And that's what the black, and I like to use the black and the purple for. All right. So there's that sister, and then we'll go and define this blue sister's face now. Following the same technique, we're going to grab our white and kind of make a line straight down the middle of her face and pull the paint in one direction to give it that texture and that kind of nice sharp line. And then back with our lighter one, do the same thing. I added some white down at her chin to sort of pull up and give her some more texture. And then her face, actually, she looks like she's wearing like a scarf or something. So we've got all this beige down here. We'll end up covering that up. But her hand is right here, so we can do her hand since it's in front of her face. But I'm going to take this black and kind of outline where I think her fingers and things should be. So we're not going to draw like actual fingers in there. We're going to kind of just do the impression that there's fingers there. That's what's nice about this heavy texture, is it's such big strokes and things that you can really hide a lot of the detail in it. And just kind of imply that there's a hand there, so we don't have to actually like draw a hand out. So I grabbed some magenta, I grabbed some black and some yellow, and I'm just leaving it real thick and unblended there because she's got a lot of colors in her scarf. And I'm just piling those different colors on there with a few different brush strokes to try to give it some texture and movement. Can't forget our orange. Put a little orange back there. Okay, well now we'll go back with our skin colors now that we kind of have a general, outline of a hand. And even though our palette knife is contaminated, that's going to work in our favor while we're putting these fingers on, because it'll give us some shadows and things that were unintentional, but they work in our favor. So she has a thumb, so we're just going to do a line for a thumb, and then kind of swoop over to do like the palm of her hand, and then her other fingers are kind of curled over. And then she's got these upper fingers here. And then we'll go on top of any colors that are contaminated that we don't like, just go back and cover them up with a creepy hand. Okay, let's grab some white. And I'll put a little pink in there too. And the pink, I just kind of daubed it at the tips of her fingers, just like a fingertip, because like our fingertips tend to have a little different color than like our fingers. I think that kind of helps give it some definition there. And I'm keeping this real thick so it kind of stands up off the page since it's closer to us. Alright, I'm going to clean my palette knife. Just wipe your palette knife off to clean it. And then grab us some white for her nails. And just use the side of your palette knife to try to scrape that on there. Alright. I'd like to add a little pink up here at her widow's peak. I was missing something. I think the pink is just enough something to add some color there. Maybe a little highlight here and there. There we go. Okay, so let's go tackle this green shirt that this lady's wearing. So I'm going to get a lot of green and a lot of yellow because she's got some yellow on there. So I'm just loading my palette knife with the two colors. I'm not mixing. When I go to do my palette stroke, it'll mix it all in and make kind of a nice color there. See? And I didn't have to do much. I just kind of swiped it on and it gave us a nice movement. Now, she's got details in there, so I'll take the tip of my palette knife and do a little swirl in the paint, and it'll take that green and that yellow and make swirl it in like a nice little kind of pattern to mimic what's going on her coat. And I'll add some purple in there, in that green, for wrinkles. So I'm leaving the purple real thick, kind of to mimic fabric. Excuse me. And then to the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. A lot of purple and some big chunks of green. All the way over here because she's in front. So we want her coat to be in front of both of the sisters. So a lot of green here. And that yellow, like we did before, I'm going to just take the tip of my palette knife, load it with yellow, and I'm going to swirl it in to get that pattern. And then her collar has actually got red in it, so I will load my palette knife with some red and just kind of use the tip of it to do like this outline of her collar. And then backfill it with green. And then some purple for some shadows along her neckline. And then it does look like she's wearing some earrings. We'll add her some earrings on in a minute too. Now I'm going to just get a lot of purple. I'm going to take purple, which is going to be sort of my outlining color. I'm going to go and kind of define their faces a little bit more. If I feel like I want a little more definition, like in their jawline or anything, I'll just take my tip of my palette knife and add some purple smears here and there. Kind of help that middle sister stand out a little more. Or like over here, I feel like she needs some definition where her hair is at. You could pretty much be done right about here. It looks pretty good as it is. Or you can go back and finesse it. So I'm just going to do a few more things to finesse it, and then I'll show it to you. So let's tackle that hand real quick. So on this Sanderson Sisters hand, I forgot she had it sticking out over here. So let's go grab some of this beige and do a hand sitting right on her shoulder and her arm. I'll grab a lot of white so she can have lots of texture in here. And then her fingers kind of, I'm using the edge of my palette knife to kind of draw a finger without blending it into that green, just putting on lots of paint. And then I'll go back with a little pink to make it stand out. Alright, now here's our little bit of pink. Put that on the top of her hand so she looks like she's got some color. And then a little bit right here in the background. And then just so it stands off her face so it doesn't look like it's just blending in, I'm going to go back with that black or that purple and kind of put some definition in there. Using the tip of my blade. Alright, so there we go. There's our palette knife Sanderson sister painting. Let's see, I'm going to turn this around and so I can say bye to y'all. Let me see if I can get it turned without making everything upside down again. or without the phone falling into the paint. That would be awful. Okay, so it's really wet, guys. You gotta let it dry off for a long, long time, but check it out. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, if you shared this video, you're gonna be entered to win. Let me find my nurse's decal. I don't know what I did with it. You'll be entered to win a nurse decal. Well, this one's just a heart, but the one I'm going to be giving to y'all actually has the nurse sign in the middle of it. Oh, here it is. There you go. If you shared my video, you're going to be entered to win that decal today. I hope y'all's turned out amazing, and I hope you have a fun time doing this. What's fun about the palette knife is you don't have to be an amazing painter. It's just about putting colors on a canvas, and it's all going to look beautiful anyway. So thank you guys for following. If y'all like this video, I hope to have more coming up with maybe some Christmas paintings soon. So I got to go get the kids from school. Bye, guys.